Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Astonishing coin discoveries and jaw-dropping numismatic tales come alive. And if you've been following us, then you already know we dive deep into the incredible world of rare and highly valuable coins that could be lying unnoticed in your pocket change. And today's episode is going to be no exception because we are about to unfold the mind-blowing story of the 2001 D1 cent coin, a coin that stunned collectors and dealers alike when it was auctioned for an eye-watering $28 million due to an extraordinary combination of minting errors, production flaws, and an incredibly rare confluence of circumstances that transformed this otherwise ordinary Denver-minted Lincoln cent into one of the most iconic and prized era coins ever discovered. And to understand how such a modern penny became so astronomically valuable, we must look back at the unique context of its creation, the high-speed production environment of the early 2000s at the Denver Mint, and the extreme rarity of the specific series of mistakes that make this cent so exceptionally desirable, because this was not just a simple misstrike or a basic off-center error, but rather a confluence of multiple, layered flaws that aligned so rarely that even veteran mint employees could not recall a comparable case in modern times, starting with the coin's dramatic double strike that occurred during a feeder jam, where the coin was struck once off-center by nearly 35% and then struck again slightly rotated with full pressure, resulting in overlapping images of Lincoln's profile that appear ghost-like, with the date reading not just once but twice in offset fashion, 2001 superimposed over a distorted second 2001, and this alone would make the coin noteworthy. But the story doesn't end there, because further microscopic analysis revealed that this coin was struck on an experimental planchette not officially sanctioned for circulation pennies, a copper-zinc alloy with trace amounts of tin and manganese, possibly sourced from leftover experimental planchets tested in the 1980s and mistakenly reintroduced into production bins during a later materials transfer at the Denver facility, meaning that the base metal composition of this coin deviated slightly but significantly from the standard copper-plated zinc composition of regular 2001 D cents, and metallurgists confirmed that this anomalous alloy created a subtle luster difference that was picked up under specific lighting conditions, giving the coin an unmistakable warm-toned sheen that doesn't appear on any regular 2001 D cent, and compounding the mystery was the misaligned collar that allowed the second strike to slightly expand the diameter of the coin, creating a coin just marginally wider than standard, which further confirmed that it was improperly seated during one of the strikes. And on top of this, the reverse shows a die clash imprint of Lincoln's bust, a ghost image caused when the obverse and reverse dies clashed without a planchette in between, and this phenomenon left a faint impression of Lincoln's outline on the reverse design itself, making the Lincoln memorial on the back appear as though it's haunted by the ghost of the obverse, and keen-eyed collectors quickly recognized this as one of the clearest and eeriest die clashes ever recorded on a Lincoln cent. And as if that weren't enough to set the coin apart, there's the matter of the repunched mint mark, where the day mint mark appears twice, once cleanly, and once offset by about 0.5 millimeter, indicating a rare case of RPM or repunched mint mark. And while this is occasionally seen on older coins from the 1950s and 60s, by 2001 it was considered highly unusual due to modern automated mint mark punching practices, further confusing experts and elevating the mystery around the coin's production. And if all this weren't enough to send collectors into a frenzy, the coin's condition at discovery was near flawless, graded by top-tier authentication bodies as MS68 red, a grade almost unheard of for an error coin with this many anomalies, because error coins usually suffer from damage or distortion that reduces their grade, but this 2001 D penny managed to preserve full luster, strong eye appeal, and sharply defined devices despite its chaotic creation, leading to widespread speculation that it may have been preserved shortly after minting by a sharp-eyed employee or an inspector who recognized its anomaly and tucked it away before it entered circulation. And for years the coin's whereabouts were unknown until it surfaced quietly at a coin show in Colorado Springs, where a private collector displayed it anonymously to a handful of dealers, instantly igniting whispers in the numismatic community, and word of its appearance spread rapidly, drawing attention from elite collectors and institutional investors alike, leading to a high-stakes bidding war when it was finally consigned to auction at a prestigious event in New York, where collectors from across the globe converged with one goal in mind: to add the now legendary 2001 D multi-era Lincoln cent to their collection. And after a breathtaking series of escalating bids, It was finally hammered at $28 million to a private anonymous bidder believed to be a technology billionaire with a long-standing passion for numismatics, and the sale stunned even the most seasoned experts, not only because of the price, but because of what it signified: the market's willingness to assign enormous value not just to ancient gold coins or historical artifacts, but to modern-era coins whose stories and anomalies defy probability. And what makes this coin truly fascinating beyond its eye-watering value is the way it encapsulates multiple layers of minting flaws and procedural lapses in a single piece of metal: double strike, off-center strike, experimental planchette, die clash, misaligned collar, repunched mint mark, and elite-grade preservation, all of which on their own might merit a premium, but together create a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. And as experts have pointed out, the odds of all these conditions appearing together on a single coin in such pristine condition are almost incalculable, making this cent not only a once-in-a-lifetime find, but possibly a once-in-a-century anomaly. And the buzz surrounding the coin has led to renewed interest in early 2000s Lincoln cents, with collectors across the country now scouring their stashes for overlooked 2001 D pennies, hoping to find a lesser-known cousin or another unique variant that could command its own windfall. And educational institutions and mints have even expressed interest in acquiring the coin for study, due to the unprecedented nature of the combined eras. And while the buyer remains private, the coin's legend continues to grow as numismatic journals, collectors' forums, and YouTube channels like ours dissect every element of its creation, every possible scenario that could have produced it, and every implication it has for future collecting, with some speculating that the coin may eventually reach even higher valuations if it ever re-enters the auction market, as its notoriety continues to grow and its story reaches broader audiences. And its fame has sparked new debates about how modern coins should be examined, what constitutes a premium error versus a common flaw, and whether certain processes at the mint should be revisited to prevent, or perhaps encourage, the accidental birth of coins that will one day become legends. And in the end, the 2001 D1 cent worth $28 million is more than just a coin. It is a testament to the unpredictability of the minting process, the incredible detail that passionate collectors are willing to scrutinize, and the sheer magic that can happen when metal, machinery, and misfortune collide to create a tangible piece of history that transcends its face value and becomes an icon in its own right. And as always, we encourage you to check your change, look closely at those pennies, especially from the early 2000s, and never underestimate the humble 1-cent coin, because as we've just seen, the next time you find an ordinary-looking penny, it might just be hiding an extraordinary story waiting to be discovered, and it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Next, 2015 D1 cent USA coin that dives deep into the incredible, unexpected, and often mind-blowing world of rare coins that have turned ordinary pocket change into multi-million-dollar treasures. And today's story is one that truly defies the odds, logic, and all expectations, because we are about to uncover the shocking tale of the 2015 D1 cent coin that recently rocked the numismatic world when it sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $24 million due to a rare and unbelievable combination of minting errors, planchette anomalies, and production mishaps that resulted in one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in American coin history. And this isn't just any era coin, but a specimen so unique and so loaded with production mistakes that even the most experienced numismatists were left speechless by the number of improbabilities that occurred during its creation. And to understand how this humble 2015 D penny became worth more than a fleet of luxury cars or a beachfront mansion, we have to begin with the rare convergence of events at the Denver Mint during that particular year. Because while 2015 was a standard mintage year with billions of cents being churned out using copper-plated zinc planchets, high-speed presses, and automated quality control systems, this specific coin somehow slipped through every layer of monitoring and came out carrying not one, not two, but a long chain of freakish anomalies, beginning first with the coin's unprecedented double off-center strike, which saw the original strike land at an aggressive 60% off-center angle, leaving a massive crescent of blank planchette visible, and then was inexplicably struck a second time at a slightly rotated position, but again off-center in the opposite direction, giving the coin an appearance that many collectors compare to a crescent moon overlaying a shattered shadow. And this bizarre dual strike already made it a contender for major attention. But what truly elevated this 2015 D penny into legendary status was the discovery that the planchet itself was not the standard copper-plated zinc, but rather a transitional experimental alloy, an incredibly rare leftover material believed to have been used briefly for internal testing in the early 2010s, possibly involving a different copper-nickel composition intended for an unrealized series of cost-saving trials, meaning that the metal composition of this penny is itself a critical part of its story, as its unique atomic breakdown deviated from normal mint standards and created a different visual tone, a different weight by a fraction of a gram, and a telltale luster that made it instantly recognizable to the trained eye as an oddity, and metallurgical tests later confirmed the anomaly, revealing trace amounts of manganese and a slightly elevated nickel content that is not consistent with the billions of other 2015 D cents, making it potentially one of only one or two transitional planchets from that year ever known to exist, and as if the double off-center strike and experimental metal weren't already enough, this coin also exhibits one of the most spectacular examples of die clash seen on a modern Lincoln cent, with the reverse side bearing a partial impression of Lincoln's profile from the obverse, resulting in a ghostly phantom face emerging from the Lincoln Memorial, creating a truly surreal visual effect that captivated collectors, and the die clash appears to have occurred after a press cycle with no planchet in place, causing the dies themselves to collide and leave behind a deeply embedded outline of Lincoln's features, which transferred onto this coin during its flawed strike, and this die clash effect is extremely rare in modern minting due to improvements in press technology, but in this case, the severity of the clash suggests an equipment malfunction or an improperly aligned press run, and on top of this already astonishing error cocktail, the coin features a repunched date, where the numerals in 2015 appear twice, with a clear doubling effect especially visible on the 5, indicating that the date was either punched more than once or that the hub used to create the die had a slight shift during the transfer process, which is extremely rare for coins this recent, and even more fascinating is the presence of a highly unusual and partially rotated mint mark, where the D for Denver appears at an angle instead of the usual upright orientation, suggesting either a misaligned die or a rotational slip during the hubbing process, making it a textbook example of a mispunched mint mark, which again, is very rare for modern coins due to advances in automated precision, and moving beyond the technical errors. What makes this coin so special is that it's also in nearly pristine condition, having never entered circulation and showing zero signs of wear, handling, or environmental damage, which resulted in its grading as MS69 read by one of the most respected grading authorities, and a perfect score that pushed its value into the stratosphere, as high-grade errors like this are exceedingly rare since most coins with severe strikes are ejected by quality control or end up damaged. Yet this coin somehow escaped all detection and was preserved in a state that maintained its full copper brilliance, satin surfaces, and razor-sharp detail despite the chaos of its creation, and according to the auction house that sold it, this coin generated unprecedented attention, attracting collectors from around the globe, with many experts comparing its significance to that of the legendary 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper penny, and during the auction, which took place in a packed room buzzing with anticipation, bidding quickly escalated from six figures into the millions as phone bidders and live participants battled to own a piece of modern numismatic history, and by the time the hammer fell at $24 million, the room erupted in applause, marking one of the most significant modern coin sales in American history, and since then, the coin has become a symbol of how even the most modern mintage can still produce once-in-a-lifetime treasures, and its fame has sparked an enormous wave of interest in 2015 D cents, with collectors now examining their change with magnifying glasses and digital calipers, hunting for any signs of doubling, clashing, or unusual toning that might indicate a distant cousin of this phenomenal era coin, and forums, coin shows, and numismatic publications have since devoted entire sections to the analysis of this 1-cent piece, breaking down each era, each anomaly, and each hypothesis about how this miraculous coin could have come to exist. And while the Denver Mint has not officially commented on the specifics of the coin's creation, several former employees have privately speculated that it may have been the result of an overnight run that encountered both feeder malfunctions and a die setup that was not properly checked before production resumed, combined perhaps with a mixing error that introduced experimental blanks into a standard supply. And when considering the odds, an experimental alloy planchette, a double off-center strike with opposing orientations, a massive die clash on the reverse, a repunched date, a rotated mint mark, and all this preserved in near perfect mint condition, it becomes clear that this coin is an astronomical statistical anomaly, something that even if attempted deliberately would be nearly impossible to reproduce, and this level of complexity is part of why collectors are willing to pay such high sums, because it represents a piece of minting chaos frozen in time, a perfect storm of errors that transformed a 1-cent coin into an object of fascination, speculation, and enormous monetary value, and even now, months after the sale, the coin continues to inspire debates and dreams among numismatists, with some suggesting that coins like this redefine what collectors should be looking for in modern issues, shifting the spotlight from old, historical coins to unexpected modern marvels created through the quirks of human error and machine imperfection. And as always, this incredible tale reminds us that every coin in your pocket could be hiding secrets, and sometimes those secrets are worth millions, so never stop looking closely at your change, because the next time you see a 2015 D penny with something a little off about it, a strange glow, a funny strike, a rotated letter, it might not be a flaw but a window into a world of hidden value, a gateway to history, and possibly the beginning of your own discovery of the next multimillion-dollar coin. Last 2005 D1 cent USA coin. That brings you the most fascinating, unbelievable, and astonishing stories from the world of rare coins where value is measured not just in cents and dollars but in millions and sometimes even more, because today's episode takes us deep into the story of a coin so seemingly ordinary yet so exceptionally rare and error-filled that it left even seasoned numismatists stunned and collectors from around the world scrambling to verify the truth behind what may be one of the most spectacular modern coin discoveries in recent history, and we are talking about none other than the 2005 D1 cent coin, which recently made international headlines when it was auctioned for an earth-shattering $27 million. And no, this is not a myth or urban legend, but a real and verifiable case backed by grading authorities, mint historians, and collectors who all agree that this particular coin may be one of the most complex and extraordinary error coins ever struck by the United States Mint. And to truly appreciate the full depth of this miraculous coin's value, we must dive into every aspect of what makes it so unique, beginning with the fact that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint in a year that saw billions of Lincoln cents produced using standard copper-plated zinc planchets, which by all accounts should have made the 2005 D cent one of the most common coins in circulation, but instead, amidst the mindless speed of mass production and the relentless rhythm of industrial minting, emerged one coin that defied every expectation, because this was no ordinary cent but a coin riddled with anomalies from edge to edge and layer upon layer of minting mistakes that each individually would have commanded attention but together created a once-in-a-century masterpiece of minting chaos, starting with the fact that the coin was double struck, with the first strike being almost 50% off-center, pushing Lincoln's bust dramatically to the right while leaving a large crescent of the blank planchette visible on the left, and the second strike overlapping the first at a 45-degree rotation, which resulted in a shadowy ghost image of Lincoln's face appearing almost surreal and cinematic, as if caught in a time warp, frozen mid-shift between two realities, and that alone would place the coin in the elite category of major errors. But as we look closer, the mystery only deepens, because this particular 2005 D penny was not struck on a normal planchette at all, but rather on what experts have identified as a foreign planchette, possibly intended for use in a non-US denomination, perhaps even a test planchette or leftover from an earlier experimental batch, making the coin's weight slightly off by a fraction of a gram and giving it a distinct metallic resonance when tapped, a subtle ping that seasoned collectors immediately recognize as being different from standard copper-plated zinc. And metallurgical analysis confirmed that the planchette contained trace amounts of nickel and iron, which are not part of the standard composition for US cents, and added to the mystique was the coin's peculiar coloring with a darker reddish gold tone that shimmered under light and made it stand out visually even before the errors were fully understood. And yet even this rare planchette alone is just one piece of the puzzle, because on the reverse side of the coin the Lincoln Memorial appears with an astonishing die clash imprint from the obverse die, meaning that the coin's reverse has a faint but clearly visible image of Lincoln's head imprinted backwards, as if emerging like a phantom from within the memorial itself. And die clashes of this nature are rare and often subtle, but in this case the imprint was unusually sharp, suggesting a powerful clash between the dies with no planchette in place, which then carried over onto this coin during the flawed strike. And above the memorial the words E pluribus unum appear doubled, in a way that has never before been documented. For this year and mintmark configuration with the doubling sharp enough to be seen unaided by magnification yet subtle enough to suggest hub doubling rather than machine doubling, which makes the error significantly more valuable as hub doubling originates during die creation and not from press malfunction, and moving to the obverse, the date 2005 exhibits what experts now confirm as a repunched date with the digits, especially the 5 appearing twice, once slightly north of the main imprint, and while repunched dates are known from earlier coin eras, by 2005 most minting was controlled by high-precision digital systems, making such errors rare and highly prized, and just below the date is the D mint mark, which appears not only repunched but also slightly rotated counterclockwise from its normal alignment, and this misaligned mint mark has been classified as a dramatic RPM or repunched mint mark variety with strong separation, visible even under low magnification. And when you combine these elements with the physical condition of the coin, which remains near pristine, showing full original red luster and no circulation where graded by multiple authorities as MS69 red full strike with bold devices and flawless surfaces, the rarity becomes almost overwhelming, as coins that undergo this level of minting trauma rarely survive in such pristine condition, since the mechanical pressure involved often leaves marks, damage or wear that lower the overall grade. But this coin remained untouched, almost as if it was struck and then immediately preserved by a numismatics-aware employee or an inspector who recognized the anomaly and safeguarded it from circulation until it eventually surfaced years later at a private collection sale in New Mexico, where its full details were finally brought to light by a team of collectors, researchers and historians who recognized that they were looking at something unprecedented. And as word of the discovery spread, collectors from around the world flocked to get a glimpse of this coin, which by now had become the subject of online forums, numismatic publications, and even academic inquiries, as metallurgists, coin graders, and mint veterans weighed in on how so many layered errors could possibly coexist in one coin. And the prevailing theory now suggests a combination of human error and machine malfunction, possibly during an overnight die change or planchette supply swap, when a test planchette batch was mistakenly loaded into a press that had just experienced a feeder jam, resulting in a misaligned strike using improperly seated dies which had recently clashed, leaving behind their phantom images, and with the wrong metal involved, the presses delivered unexpected pressure readings that were not flagged by automated sensors, allowing the flawed coin to be ejected as if it were normal, and by a stroke of incredible luck or fate, the coin bypassed further inspection, landed in a bag bound for internal use, and was eventually handed off as a curiosity to a collector who recognized something extraordinary. And when it finally reached the auction block in early 2025, it became the centerpiece of one of the most watched sales in modern coin history, with live bidding from collectors, dealers and institutions in Europe, Asia and North America. And after more than 40 minutes of competitive escalation, the coin was sold for $27 million to an anonymous private collector, believed to be an international technology investor with a well-known passion for mint errors, and the sale shattered records not only for Lincoln cents but for any modern coin struck after 2000, signaling a new era of appreciation and value for recent era coins that exhibit extraordinary characteristics. And since then, the fame of the 2005 D1 cent has grown exponentially, spawning hundreds of imitation claims and mistaken finds, but to date only one such coin has been authenticated, and collectors now scouring their own 2005 D pennies are on the lookout for even minor variants, hoping to find something remotely comparable, though the sheer uniqueness of the layered errors makes another identical find extremely unlikely. And the coin's legacy now includes inclusion in museum exhibits, numismatic research papers and high-profile collector showcases, with experts agreeing that it may be decades before another modern coin of such spectacular error magnitude and pristine condition emerges. And the lessons from this discovery are clear, that even the most common and unassuming coins can hide unbelievable value, and that a sharp eye and a willingness to question the ordinary can sometimes lead to multi-million-dollar rewards. So check your change carefully, study your cents, and always look twice at those coins you might otherwise toss in a jar, because as the story of the 2005 D1 cent proves, the next legendary coin might just be sitting in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to see the extraordinary hiding within the everyday.